Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cub Chat Live. We've got one of our fan favorite and host favorite guests. It's our Director of Research, Pat Wellen. Pat, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome, Gina. Glad to be here.
Pat is a busy woman, but she has taken some time to talk to us on Cub Chat Live today about something pretty eye-opening. We're talking about recruitment and retention and Cub Scouting and putting some data behind that. As you can see the description, what are Cub Scout families looking for? We're going to look at the research today. Hello, Wendy. Thank you for tuning in out there in Illinois. As we're going, throw your questions into the chat. Pat, if you've ever seen Pat present, she's got a lot of information for us. It's good stuff. And if you have questions, she's very open to us throwing those her way as we go. So without further ado, we're talking about retention first, recruitment first.
Recruitment first. Let's talk about recruitment first because we're about to go into recruitment season. And so, there's two ways for us to get and keep the people that we have. And one is recruitment and one is retention. So let's start with retention. So what we're finding, I'm going around the country right now talking to a bunch of different people through focus groups, and it's validated some information that we have from surveys. Our first piece of survey data I have is, have you ever considered having your child enroll in the Cub Scouts or BSA program? 42% said yes, 52% said no. The number one reason that they gave us a no, that 58, is because they don't see us. They don't know we're alive. We're not even in their consideration set. So we're not getting our word out and letting them know that we're here. They're not seeing us out doing things. We're not getting into the schools and telling them we're here, going to those open house nights, letting parents know we're alive and well. We're not going into community centers and other places where we could be. So that's one of the things we have to realize. We think we're shouting it from the rooftops that we're here and we're alive, and we're not. Unfortunately, in my focus groups, only had about 10 to 12 parents in each one of them. Only one Cub Scout parent in those non-scouting focus groups had ever thought of us or heard of us or considered us.
So Pat, Justin says he's representing PAC 21. These episodes are so helpful in designing our recruiting efforts. Totally agree. Thanks for watching, Justin. Hello, PAC 208 and PAC 916 and PAC 19. Happy Friday, Hillary. I want to drill into that. So even there in that footnote, it says this was, I think it says 1,000. I'm going off of memory right now, 1,094, 1,043 parents of non-scouts.
Right.
Can you frame how this data comes to us?
So this data is random sample surveying, nationally representative sample of parents of non-scouts. So we do a question that asks you if you're in scouting or not, or have you ever considered it, all these types of questions. If you say you haven't, that you're not currently in scouting, actually, that's the next question is, have you ever considered it? That's where we got this answer from. So these are people that are not currently in scouting that have children in the 6 to 10-year-old age range. It's who we're talking to.
Fabulous framework. A good reminder for all of our audience. Pat is doing this at a professional level. This wasn't just like a Facebook survey of 5 people and half of them are in scouting.
I didn't just throw it out there. We make sure it's nationally representative, and 1,000 people or more can get you nationally representative information.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
The next thing we ask them then is, and this is just a general question, not a scouting question, is how do you usually get your information on what youth activities your child should be enrolled in? 60% told us that it comes to them through schools. Now, I know sometimes this is hard for us because some people don't have access to schools. I always hear this. What we're finding is when we go around and talk to people about school access, we find that many of them have not gone in lately and talked to their school, not since COVID, not because they just assume the school isn't going to let them in. Well, the schools are having the same pressures that the parents are feeling right now, which is kids lost a lot of socialization when we went into the COVID shutdown. And parents are looking for things that will help get that socialization back. School is looking for things that will help the kids become more social. And so go back in. If you haven't talked lately to your principal, go back in and see if they'll let you in the school if you don't have a good relationship with the school. You also don't ever know when a superintendent or when a principal changed, and now you have somebody that has had a scout in our program and knows the value of it, or just knows the value of it, and will let you in.
A few tips too there. If anybody wasn't watching our Troop Talk Live last week, we talked a little bit about, maybe you've been denied access to your school, but the school would be open to you co-programming something with another organization or co-sponsoring some kind of a community service hour event. Oftentimes that is how our units get school access.
Absolutely. Service projects for the school. That's how we used to get access to our school. Once we did that a few times, or going and doing the flag ceremony for Veterans Day or things like that, where you're giving back to that school so they can see the value of having you interact in their school.
Absolutely.
So the second most common way they learn about it is from their friends. We also don't activate the PAC parents. Mom to mom is the number one thing I'm finding in these focus groups that I'm doing right now. And that is if they know another mother or father, but generally it's the moms that talk to each other. But if they know another mom and she says, hey, you should really get your kid involved in this. This is what it's done for my son or my daughter. This is why I really think you should do it too. They are 100% likely to do it if they have the time and they feel like it's for them. They are 100% in because they know you now. They're looking for people they know and people they want to associate with. So they're your friends already. So they want to associate with you. Bring them in.
That's why I'm sure we've all been influenced by, if you're on Instagram like I am, I know I'm always looking for things to do with my daughter. And so if I see a friend or even, something makes its way into my, through the algorithm onto my timeline from somebody I don't know, and they are attesting to an indoor play place or a park or what have you, seeking those parent testimonials out on their social media, just a picture or sharing an event, that can go a long way. And it sounds like the data backs that up.
Yeah. And especially showing those pictures, show the pictures of your family, of the kids having such a great time. Because that's the other thing we found is non-scouting parents don't know what we do. They think we camp. That's the only thing they think we do. They don't understand the other variety of activities and the fun and camaraderie that goes on. So pictures.
Even like, why does camping matter? If we do camp, we do go outdoors. Sometimes the family isn't, super, maybe you didn't grow up that way, but what are you seeing in your kid that is like how's going in the outdoors benefiting them and sharing that kind of story on your social? Bert backs it up. We love peer-to-peer, parent-to-parent promotion.
Absolutely.
With the Atlanta Council. Hey,
absolutely. Bert. That's great. So do that. Be sure and lean into that. Lean into your parents talking. Convince parents it is everybody's job to make this a fun experience for the kids, and more friends means more fun. So social media was at 35%. So they are looking at that social media. Website searches, that's just where they go on and they Google you, or they go out to Be a Scout. Make sure your Be a Scout pin is on. Family members. A lot of people joined because they had family in the program, brother, sister that was in the program, or they have a current niece or nephew that's also in the program. Some other search engines also, and then community centers are the other things. So that's that partnering piece that you talked about. Getting with the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Clubs, the other places that you could be, churches, if it's not just at your site, if you're chartered to a church, but other places where the community will see your message of joining.
Love that. And I have a suspicion, but we'll have to read the survey data in, 5-10 years. Websites might even become more of a popular place for us to get some of that information, just as I predict this generation coming up is less social in the traditional way that we think of. So again, those Be a Scout pins, get that legacy built there right now for sure.
Yeah. And with AI, who knows? Because I can just ask it, what should my child be in for character development or for whatever I want to do? And it'll give me that list.
Yeah, we're building that online infrastructure now for your unit to have a presence, for your council to have a presence. So fabulous point. This is so eye-opening. Our audience is super pumped. We've got a lot of people viewing right now. Hello, Jim. Thanks for tuning in. Rusty's a regular viewer. Pack 92 and Pack 84. Thank you. Steven says, Den leader here. I agree. If parents know another person in the pack, they are more willing to come. That aligns a lot with what Anthony says often, where he's saying, parents often join for the parent culture. They want to go hang out with parents and have fun with parents. And I can absolutely see that. Absolutely. And I can see Cub Scouting lend itself so well to that. Absolutely.
So my Cub Scout, my son was in Cub Scouts. He's 30 years old now. But I am still friends with the people in my den to this day. We go out and we have lunch together. The other moms, we still see each other. We still see each other as families too. So when we know that our sons are both in town and their families are with them, we all get together still. So, I mean, this is many, many years later, 20 years later, we're still
It's
seeing each other.
amazing. I'm wondering if we'll see that factoring into retention, which we'll get to, I realize, in a few minutes, but we're still talking recruiting right now. So what else is on deck, Pat?
Yeah. So the other piece I want to talk about recruiting, and these are the things that we talked about how good it is to have recommendation and activating those parents to recommend. These are the things that will help you, if you do these, will help get people to recommend. So the first thing, what drives recommendation of your parents in your pack is if you make scouting really fun. So that's the number one thing. These are based off questions that we do a Voice of the Scout survey with our scouting parents. 1/4 of the population gets it each month. And this is what the parents have told us. These are our drivers of whether they'll give a high NPS score, which is the likelihood to recommend. Scouting is really fun. Make sure you have a really fun program. We're going to talk more about that in just a minute on retention. Scouting is a great value for the money. Now, I don't ask price. I ask value for the money. Because if you have a great program and the person thinks their child is getting value out of that, they are willing to pay for that value that they derive from that. If you don't have such a good program, maybe it's not worth the money. So make sure you have that really fun program that's aligned with value for the money. Parents are looking for things that help them provide positive youth development to meet the goals of their family. So how is it helping them meet their goals for their children? One person told me, I'm just trying to grow a good human being. And that's where I thought, oh, that's what scouting helps you do. They're your partner to do that. Scouting makes me feel like I'm part of something bigger than myself. This is also going to some of those things where they see other scouts. It's also those service projects that you do that help the community. So the child and the parent can see they're part of a bigger movement. They're part of something greater than themselves in their own little pack even. Constantly reinforcing worthwhile values. What this means is that you're following the Scout Oath and Law, that the parents, the leaders, and the youth are being held accountable to following that Scout Oath and Law, because that's where they get in. They want those values for their child. So if they see people in the unit not following those values, or they see things like bullying happening and the adults not stopping it, that's not consistent with their values. And so they will not recommend us if they see that going on. Scout meetings are a good use of my family's time. That goes back to planning those meetings. And I know that's you leaders, y'all do a great job. And I know it takes a lot of your time. We appreciate it, but having those good meetings, so it's a good use of your time. Getting those other parents to help you out also so that they feel included is another piece of that.
Susan has a comment on that one, but we'll round out the list and come back to that, Susan.
Okay. Our family and I feel like we belong in our scouting unit. That has to do with what we've been talking about are these my people? I talked about how the people that I was with, they were definitely my people. They still are to this day. Do I feel like I belong? Do people treat me like I belong? Are they friendly to me? Do they welcome me? Do they make me feel good about being there? Do they include me in things? They ask me to help. All of those kinds of things. And adult leaders in my troop help me be a better contributor. This is about the adult leader letting the parent know how they can contribute. So those are all things that will help that parent recommend if you do these things in your unit.
So that's a huge number of Cub Scout parents who are answering that question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, saying, what keeps them or what, draws them to scouting. I'm curious, and the answer may be no. Do we have data on if any of those have proven to be a barrier for families that left scouting?
We do. And so I'm going to talk about that in just a minute.
Okay.
That's on another slide.
I'm excited.
A little bit later.
Susan says, I won't spoil. Sorry, Pat, I almost did. Susan says, in our small town, parents want to drop off and have me time. Parents can do that with sports where scouting is family oriented. I think she's saying they've lost many scouts to sports, which I think is probably a common experience. It makes me think of a few of the points in there, but one that really resonates to me is number one on the list, which is I remember my mom making me do piano lessons and I hated it and I didn't want to go. And at a point, it was just like not worth, even though she got that me time, it was not worth having to pull me in there to go. And I just wasn't enjoying it. So I think as leaders, if we're not seeing our scouts get super excited about activities in most meetings, then their parents are probably not going to want to bring them.
So I will tell you, in the focus groups I've been running, I asked that very question. Do you prefer to drop off or do you prefer to help? Would you be a leader? Very few people, I'm going to tell you all this, very few people say they'll step up to be a leader. A lot of that is because they don't know anything about scouting. They don't have a history of scouting. They're afraid of what it might be. So getting them in to do small jobs. So explaining to them at the beginning that what a family program means and why it's good for them to be with their child, how they're going to have fun with their child. It's going to be just as much fun for you as it is for the child, and getting to help out. Small jobs, introduce people to small jobs. Don't start with the big job. I think we do a really bad job of that in scouting. I'll be honest with you. I think we do a really bad job of getting you in there and going, you're going to be the leader. You're a den leader now, instead of already having somebody that has been there a little bit to be the den leader, and then have them be the assistant den leader. And what does that mean? And sharing responsibility, so it's not all on the den leader. Back when my son first started, we had the coordinator job, basically. So you asked each parent to do something at each meeting. So one meeting I'd have one parent do something, the next meeting I'd have a different parent do something. That introduced them to where then I had assistant leaders that I could count on. I think we ended up with 3 assistant leaders by the end of it.
That is such a good point, because that's even our attitude with recruiting. Oftentimes we just say, you want to join? And we didn't really demonstrate the value of why you would want to join. In the same way we say, you want to volunteer a lot of your time each week? And we haven't necessarily built that relationship yet. So that's a great point.
And so it's, again, that story that we tell. So I would tell the story of my son and doing things with him that I would not have had another chance to do. Maybe a family camping story. You know, we had some of the weirdest camp outs. We had the wind camp out. We had the rain camp out. But every one of them helped our family grow tighter bonds together. In fact, some of the worst camp outs always do that to you.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
You know, the camp out where my husband decided we didn't need the rain fly. Let's look at the stars because it's not going to rain. And then it poured on us.
Shared struggle.
Yeah. So, you know, those kinds of things that when you're talking about it, I mean, that may not be the thing you want to talk about that much, but it's like telling the story of how it helped your family bond and how it helped you bond with other kids and other people, and helped your children make better friends with other children. I think those are the things that a parent is looking for. And if you tell the story rather than just saying it's a family program, but really, how do you describe it to somebody so they understand what that means?
Fabulous point. I know we need to move on to our next slide, but I have to read Wolfgang's comment here. Very funny, because he comes to us from Germany. He's a scouter in Germany, and he's saying they said it's only 1.5 hours a week. So I guess that people say that in Germany too for scouting. We have a common experience here. We say it's only an hour a week, and a lot of leaders know it can be a lot more than that. So.
Yeah, I never use that. Don't ever use that. Stop telling people that. Be real and honest with people. It's going to be some work, but now it's fun, simple, easy.
It's getting more fun, more simple, and more easier all the time, thanks to our Cub Scout team. Okay, so we just took a look at what parents in the program said. We're going to go pivot back to the parents who are not BSA parents yet.
So we're going to have one more slide on something that we learned about joining. And this is what parents are looking for. So if you'll go on to the next slide. So what's most important when determining what your child should join? Right now, these top 3 to 4, actually the top 5 are normally in our top 5, but they changed recently. After COVID, building friendships went from number 5 to number 1. So building friendships became number 1. That's what they're looking for. Character and leadership programs, increased confidence, and safety aspects. That's one of the things I was talking with the focus group members about, with safety aspects. Because, you know, some of them have heard things in the news about us. And so they started asking questions. So being versed on, I told them about our youth protection policies, background checks, 2 deep leadership, no one-on-one contact. We talked about all those things and what they meant. and how they would be trained in these. The leaders were required to be trained in these. And after all of that, and how we went family camping, and that meant they were there with their child in these overnight experiences. And all of that made them go, oh, I didn't realize that. I thought they wouldn't let me do those things with my children. Some people don't even think you're going to be able to go on a camp out with your child. So letting them know that made them feel better about the safety aspects. So by the time we finished, I had at least 3 people that I needed to give applications to. I didn't have applications with me, but the council that was there behind the glass was going to follow up with them and get them involved in scouting.
What a powerful clarification, because I wouldn't want to send my kid on a camp out without me at a Cub Scout age. So very interesting.
But there's things that people that aren't in scouting don't understand or don't know. And there's things that they may have heard or misinterpreted in the media. And so just talking about it and being willing to talk about what are the safety aspects, and what do we do to make sure your child is safe? What does that mean? How do we help increase their confidence? So again, it's telling those stories of scouting. You have them, your child's in it, you have those stories. Otherwise you wouldn't be there as a leader. You wouldn't be there.
Right. And we're actually really well equipped in scouting to speak on that and even open up, not concerns, but things that parents need to keep in mind for the safety of their kids that they wouldn't necessarily be thinking of otherwise. So yeah, great point.
Yeah. Okay, the next slide is reasons why people leave. So now we're going to get into retention, because I know we need to move along here.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into here's why people leave. This is from 2023, and these are 1,000 former Cub Scout parents. These are people that left us. Why did you leave? We had poor leaderships, problems with the leader. What this usually meant is that they had disorganized packs, disorganized DIN meetings, canceled DIN meetings, things like that going on in the pack. My child, I am no longer interested in the program. When we dug deeper into this had those same roots. They weren't receiving the program that was designed. So the leader was doing something other than our program. They weren't earning advancements. They weren't doing the things that they should be doing. Too expensive came in as third. This used to be way down there. It has gone up, I will tell you. Some of that is the perceived value that I talked about before. That as cost has gone up in our program, they aren't seeing anything different. They're not seeing any perceived value increase. Our family did not feel welcome, 11%. This is them talking about how they would come to meetings and all the leaders and other people would be standing off to the side talking to each other and would not include them. They weren't being inclusive in that. Lack of communication from the leaders. Some of these people that joined never got a call back from a leader or a DIN leader and never went to a single meeting because they didn't know the time or the place. So I've joined, I've paid my money, I've gone to that joining night, and then nobody ever contacts me ever again. That was a really sad one. That's about
the numbers on that are really really sad. Yeah.
Yes. There's too much fundraising, 7%. This is one of the things I personally talk about, and I haven't been able to figure out how to change this, but one of your first activities is fundraising when you join. Yay. Every parent loves fundraising. Not really. And so what I've just learned through these focus groups is they don't love fundraising. That was not a shocker, but they felt better about it if they knew what the money was going toward. Mm-hmm. So explain why you do the fundraising, why you're doing it up front, and what it's going to pay for throughout the year.
That's like when Anthony says to include all your families in budget planning. So, and you could let them know that is part of your process when you are in the recruitment stage still. So,
right. Cool. Too busy with other activities was 6%. And so, yes, families can get too busy, but if you have a great, fun, exciting program, they're going to pick you and drop something else. Do not feel safe in scouting. That's 3%. Those are the people that said their child was being bullied in some way. And so they did not feel their child was safe in scouting. And the last one also makes me really sad. Their child's special needs were not being met. I know that can be hard sometimes, depending on what the special need of the child is, but I know, and generally we do a really good job of that in scouting. I do want to say that. I have more data that says we do a good job than a poor job on that. But keeping in mind that if you have children with special needs, work with the parents, try to figure out how to make that a good experience for that child.
Or even helping them find a different unit if there is a unit that could meet that child's needs better.
Correct. Because not everybody can meet every need. And so that does get to be a challenge. So yes, helping them find another unit is great.
Oh, I know we have one more slide here, but on the one that we were just looking at, we look at some of these ones that are lower on the list, and I think we think they are the only reasons people leave, especially too busy with other activities. It seems like that comes up over and over, but we all can speak to our personal experience. I think with each advancing rank, Scouting can have a non-welcoming culture because we don't explain anything. We just talk about in acronyms, all that. So, I would love it if we could reframe at the unit level thinking like, instead of worrying so much about sports, let's try to make this more of a welcoming environment. Let's make sure the kids are having fun, all that jazz.
Right. Yeah. So let's go to the next one and let's talk about, this is some other research that we did on units that have high recruitment and retention year over year. What do they do that other people don't? Those units that don't have high retention year over year. So the number one, here's the things that they do that are different from what other units do. They have a succession plan for top unit positions. So in Cub Scouting, that's the committee chair, the scoutmaster, and den leaders. They have succession plans for them. So you already have in waiting your next Cub master, and you also have term limits. That's the other thing for a healthy pack. I know sometimes they go, oh, but we've had the same person for years and years. That's actually not a healthy thing because other parents need to be able to know that they can step up. And I've heard before, oh, but other parents won't do it. Not if they think that you're going to be there forever.
It becomes a more intimidating job to take over too when someone's like, I've been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah. Right. And it does intimidate them. And they don't feel like there is a place for them to step up. So I know it's hard. And I know there's this fear of that nobody else will step up. But if you already have the next person being the assistant Cub master, or we had 2 assistant Cub masters in my pack is what we ended up doing. So that way, if one of them moved, because we have a transient population here where people move for their jobs, we had the second one. So either one of them could step in. And one year we actually had 2 of them step in as Cub master. We had co-Cub masters that year. So just think about that you need to be planning for succession so that pack lives on beyond you.
Sure.
Make a program plan over the summer. This is where you have a fun, exciting time and you're not disorganized when you do this because the next one, the third one goes with that summer program plan. So you've done that over the summer. You make a program calendar before the program year begins with coordinators for each activity that are not your leaders. Don't make your den leaders and everybody else that's already doing everything be those. So you're doing that phone tree where you're calling those other parents in your den and saying, hey, we need somebody that's going to coordinate the blue and gold. We need somebody, you're just going to coordinate. You're going to have a team of people, but I need a head person. So you pick out those people that are going to lead these things. You call them, you invite them, you ask them. You don't sit up there at a meeting and say, I need somebody to be the blue and gold chair. That doesn't work, people. Pick the people. They picked the people. They called the people. They invited them and said, here's why I picked you. Let people know why you're picking them, why they're so special. You're great at organizing things. We'd love for you to organize this. You throw the best parties ever. We want you to throw the blue and gold.
You make the best cake.
Yeah. Let them know. Sell them on the idea. Share the program calendar during your recruitment in the first meeting. Communicate your expectations to the parent. I expect every parent to sign up for one event, for at least one event, to help with it. Don't go, oh, we never get any, here's why, oh, we never get any volunteers. Did you tell them what you expect? You'll get what you expect if you tell them. Be intentional about welcoming everyone. And that means at your pack meetings, you're going to have door greeters. Hi, glad to see you tonight. So glad you're here. In your den meetings, you're going to make sure that everybody's welcome there and that everybody's interacting. So it's everybody's job to be welcoming. It's the parents' job. It's the kids' job. It's everybody's job. This is also a good time to talk about that Scout Oath and Law with the kids, that you're friendly, you're courteous, you're kind. All those things that we want them to be, and how if there's new people there, they need to go up and say hi to them and make them feel welcome.
Right. We're practicing for the outside world. We're not just practicing for how to talk to your Scout friends necessarily. What an action. I can't believe we're out of time. We have a couple questions. I see your question, Brandon. I don't know the answer, but we'll try to get to that in the comments. I see you're on YouTube. If you want to check out past episodes, Brandon, I think that might provide some information on leader resources. I know we have obviously the Den meeting resources, but on a pack level, that's a great point. And we'll bring it up to Audrey and Anthony. Catch past episodes of Cub Chat Live at scoutingmagazine.org/Cub Chat Live. We also have a podcast version of the show. Pat, this was such a good episode. As always, it's popular when you're on. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we let you go?
No, just have fun. And thank you for being a leader. We don't have a program if we don't have great leaders. And I know around the country and talking to great leaders, there are so many of you out there. So we really appreciate everything you do to bring scouting to the youth of America.
Fabulous point. And our leaders who are watching right now, you guys are excellent. We know because we've seen you week after week. Tag another great leader in the comments so they can watch this video after we're live today. And otherwise, I think we'll see you all next Friday for Cub Chat Live. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in today. Be sure to catch next week's episode. Same time, same place. And let us know how we're doing at go.scoutingmagazine.org/rate-cubchat. We love feedback and ideas for new episodes. And you can visit blog.scoutingmagazine.org/cubchatlive for all our past video episodes. You can see us live. Except it's recorded, but it was live. Okay, see you next week.